Welcome to 5-Star Weekly. Atl United were unfortunately sent home after going 0-3 in the MLS's Bag tournament. We discussed the 5 biggest things that happened that led to us crashing out. We also speak to one of the reporters that covered the Erik Lopez transfer to get a closer look at what we're getting in the young Paraguayan. All that and more coming up. Welcome to the show, 5-Star fam. I'm AJ and this is Marc. Before we get into it, become a member of the notification squad by hitting the bell next to the subscribe button on YouTube. This segment is sponsored by Thinking Man Tavern, a cozy Decatur neighborhood pub. Grab a tasty beverage from a wide variety of selections and a plate of something delicious from the menu. To go, check out Thinking Man Tavern. Follow our Twitch for new streams and surprises on Tuesdays and Thursdays starting at 9 p.m. on twitch.tv/Atl Utd FanTV. Atl United have been shut out in 400 consecutive minutes in all competitions. So let's get into the top 5 reasons why Atl United went out of the MLS's Bag tournament. The first one, number 5, is discipline issues. And Jake Mulroney with 2 yellows. And you have JJ Williams with a straight red. And also Franco Escobar doing his best to almost get sent off in the last match against the Columbus Crew. Pretty much leads to the reasons why. Marc, what are your thoughts on the discipline issues that we had throughout the 3 games? And, definitely big factor in match 2 against FC Cincy.
Right, yeah. The Mulroney one, I think, is separate. That's just a fish out of water. We talked about this, right? That's kind of the risk you take when you put an attacking player in a kind of defensive position. I mean, I know wingbacks are supposed to get forward, but they also need to track back. And I think, particularly the second yellow, I think that was a little bit of Cincinnati just targeting him. And so, they go over the top. He does something silly. He does something I think a more experienced defender would not have done, and gets himself sent off. The JJ Williams red is, I think, egregious, because he just joined the team. I mean, it's been a few months, but he, in terms of games, I think that was his debut for the team. And, he's a striker coming on, we need a goal. And instead he gets himself sent off and makes himself unavailable for the next match and probably 2 more matches if there's a season. And so, and I don't know what was going through Franco's head, man. I mean, it was infuriating to watch, because he did it multiple times. That ref, I think, was honestly a bit lenient. I don't know if I would have had as much patience with him, with Franco on that day.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it's just one of those things where, it's been something that I think, teams have been targeting, like you said earlier, and definitely it is, going in when Frank de Boer is saying pretty much that 3-4-3 looks like our best formation, and then you have guys that are playing positions that they really haven't played in their entire career. Well, yeah, it's obviously going to be issues when that occurs, and it's almost like a no-brainer that, yeah, of course the other team would target guys that haven't traditionally played that position. So, not surprising. But number 4 is defensive breakdowns. And, let's break down that, in the Columbus Crew 1-0 loss, the breakdown of the Luis Diaz chance. It's, it's very similar to the Florian Below chance that, or the goal, rather, that, happened in the New York Red Bull match, where essentially, our center backs get pulled apart, and pretty much dragged over to the right side of our field.
Mm-hmm.
And, wing back is just, it's too far of a distance between, the left center back and that left wing back that, there's acres to run onto. And, Luis Diaz here is pretty much given almost an identical type of look as Florian Below, but not as clinical. I think maybe the fact that they've encountered that one time already, Braguzan knew what to do maybe in that case of not committing to one side or another and kind of forcing him wide. But it definitely is just kind of a microcosm of some of the defensive breakdowns that we had throughout the 3 matches.
Yeah, and we go back to talking about targeting certain players. I think our left side in general was targeted, right? Because the Luis Diaz chance, that's theoretically where Mesa should be, or maybe Bello was caught up field versus Red Bulls. Again, like it was kind of down the middle, but like Miles is pulled to the right. Not, I think Mesa was either too far over or not far over enough. And then Bello again. Like I don't know if Bello's out of position, but it's one of those things where he's it's just a few players I think are caught out. And
Yeah, I think midfield as well. I think Adams, definitely. I think here is maybe just not in the right place positioning wise to be able to, I think cover up the spaces because
it was him on both of those. He started for both of the situations we're talking about.
Right. And so, it is one of those things where, if Frank de Boer wants our players to play total football, then there is something to the effect of, the players needing to know where the spaces are, void and then where to fill in so that they can, if a player goes up, they cover for that space. You're not as vulnerable if there is a ball played there. And I think that's the issue here is, time and time again throughout this tournament, whether we were punished for it or not, because most of them were not. It was 1-0 for every single match, but it is a more clinical team for each of these. They probably would have put them away, and because arguably some of them a little lucky, where Brad Guzan, it's maybe directly at him or it's side net that's outside of the actual goal, and so it's just time and time again we just didn't have quite the cohesion that you want. But number 3, I think no surprise to anybody is the lack of goal scoring. Anytime your record goal scorer in Jose Martinez goes down, you're in a world of trouble. But I think there is I think something to be said for the guys that had to come in and put in a tough spot as well. But Adam John, he played 97 minutes and he only had one shot in the entire tournament. And and that's that one that the New York Red Bulls goalkeeper David Jensen saved really late in the match. And PT had 8 shots, and really not many on target. And so Ezequiel Barco also a few shots in there, but largely also you have Manuel Castro, who 2 big important I think chances that were missed that would have changed and made a difference in the New York Red Bulls match. He did eventually get one on target later on in the FC Cincy match, but it's just a lack of really clear cut goal scoring chances in the 3 matches. And then kind of on top of that is you have guys that just aren't really in position to want to be able to put the ball in the back of the net. I mean, they're either taking shots from too far out, not in the box, or our actual lone out-and-out striker that has experience plays 97 minutes in the entire tournament. Whether he's the guy who's the guy who's able to put the ball in the back of their net or not, I mean, he is the striker. Like you almost have to at least see what he can do. But he was taken off early in every single one of those matches.
And he came on late. I think. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So it's it's difficult.
It is, and I think I take issue. I said this before. I take issue with how he was used in general. I think he was a little bit jerked around. In terms of like getting the start but getting subbed off at halftime. He was the first. He had to make way when Moreni got sent off. And so but I will say this too. I mean, we've seen, I think, especially recently, teams have success when even when goals don't necessarily come from the striker. Thinking about Firmino with Liverpool or Giroud with France, and to a degree Chelsea, but he's been scoring lately for them. But I think it's the lack of chances, really. I think that bothers me, so much. because Adam John might be unselfish, but then it's like we just didn't have, I think, a cohesive plan. You know what I mean? And so I think you saw that, especially with how De Boer used his attacking players.
Right, exactly. I mean, I don't think we were getting chances close enough into the 6-yard box to really get the dangerous chances that we really craved. And yeah, I mean, if John was used differently, which we'll talk about in a second, maybe it would have been a different story. But that wasn't the case. But I think part of that, the exacerbated problem is number 2 is the poor roster management, and that goes in from the off season, and definitely into a little bit into this season as well, in terms of a little bit of that recruitment, because obviously some players were brought on during the season as well. But you have the likes of Tito Vichalba, Brandon Vasquez, Justin Miram, who were all let go this season, this off season, that had played striker in the past before. Maybe some not for LA United, but at least have had experience there. Obviously, you can't prognosticate Jose Martinez going down, but you can prepare for, needing to have more than one out-and-out striker on the roster. That and Adam John is that guy, but it's just completely, a different, option. So you have 2 guys that are completely different. Well, obviously, you're going to be a little short if one of them goes down, and so that's the difficulty here. You also have now a lack of leadership in guys that either retired in Parky, LGP that moved to Cholos and now Inter Miami, of course, or you're missing key contributors like Darlington Nagbe and Julian Gressel. Gressel, of course, was our leading assist man, and Nagbe, I mean, he was the guy that really ran our midfield and really ran our game. To be frank, and so in turn we brought in a lot of potential, lots of inexperience, but definitely potential in Mateus Osetu, Manuel Castro, Jake Mulroney, but that inexperience definitely, I think, plays a big part into kind of why we're out of the tournament. And Jake Mulroney, inexperienced wingback, and even an FC Cincy who we all going in think they're just gonna roll over for us, but they've gone on and beat New York Red Bull and went second into Group E. I mean, that's there's lots of surprises in this tournament, definitely in Group E at the very least even, but you have you still need time to gel in some of these pieces as well. Fernando Mesa and George Bello or Jake Mulroney on that left side. If we're playing a 3-man backline with wingbacks, it's going to be difficult if they don't have really any game time together, and especially in a George Bello with his inexperience. So, roster management, was that something, I think, for you that that was an issue going in? And
so I think in terms of I think in terms of the players that came in, that were brought in, I think it's a bit of a mixed bag. And like you take each transfer by case basis. Like I think Osetu definitely has potential. That definitely seemed to be one of our bigger transfers. Manuel Castro, he was on loan initially for 6 months, and then they ended up having to extend him just because they hadn't seen him play. But like it was always going to be a case of we wanted, a kind of a trial period, so to speak. I think Mulroney, left wing back depth. You could argue he's like the Breck Shea replacement or the Justin Miram replacement. Maybe he's not that good, but then at the same time, you do have George Bello there, who I'm glad he at least played. I think his inexperience may have shown at times, but I think that's the kind of thing you have to live with if you want to develop young players. Mesa seemed like a solid move. I thought early on in the season he was pretty good. I didn't think he had a great tournament, however. I thought Brooks Lennon was probably one of our better players in the tournament. I think he was a little bit unlucky considering some of the service he provided. But, you want to talk about roster turnover. I referenced Columbus in a tweet, but we could talk about Cincinnati. Just talk about turnover in general, right? Like, they had a tumultuous offseason. And then they had to, bring in a new coach kind of late in the game, but they showed that They, it wasn't pretty, but they showed that they had a game plan, and they executed it well versus Atlanta and Red Bulls. So.
Right. And I think that's definitely a maybe simplification of the game plan, for FC Cincy for sure, and to a degree New York Red Bull. That's they know what their their tactic and their style is, so it's easier to implement than kind of the total football system that Frank de Boer likely wants to implement here, and has been difficult each time, after either an off season or a long layoff in going into the MLS's back tournament. But so that leads us to number one, the tactical inflexibility. And that's definitely, Frank de Boer kind of saying that, he thinks the 3-4-3 matches best to the roster. But, I vehemently disagree that, that shape is getting the best out of not only the personnel, but the way we're playing. And so, I think at the very basis, we lack someone in the middle to control possession and control the game, and that's in part due to Darlington Nagbe leaving, but also no one really playing that part. People shying away from the ball essentially, and you have Mo Adams that maybe just it's too tall of an order to ask him to do this. He's just not that type of player. Larry came in, showed some better awareness to always try to get on the ball, but still, he's 36 years old, so it's obviously was going to be really tough to ask him to start every match and play every single minute. And then, Hosetu not really played in the position there, even though he may have the ability. It's just one of those, when you only pick two midfielders, someone's going to be kind of shorthand there in terms of who's not picked. And, Emerson Hyndman was said to be someone that's Frank de Boer, someone that he wants to be maybe playing that Nagbe role a little bit, but it's just we're too oftentimes outnumbered in the midfield. And I would have, like I've said in previous podcasts, that maybe a simplification of it in a 4-4-2 where, the wingers tuck in, maybe the fullbacks go up, and then you have, that kind of numerical advantage in midfield. Or even a 4-2-3-1 where, if John is the lone striker, there is that flexibility there where, if you can knock down those balls, kind of like a Giroud, maybe to a much lesser degree, obviously, but, someone, if he can at least hold it up and let, Barco, let PT run onto it, get past him a little bit, that way there's at least some dynamic in the attack. But for you, was there tactical inflexibility?
Yeah, I think we talked about the midfield a lot during the streams during the games. Like, we were just, I think you said it best, we were just outnumbered, and the two-man midfield, it can work when you have a midfielder like Nagbe who kind of does everything midfield-wise in terms of backing back, taking care of the ball, beating the press, can beat two or three guys at times, getting the ball forward, like all of that. So I think, and then also like versus Columbus, versus example, Remedi comes in, and there were other changes too, but we definitely looked better. And Remedi is somebody who will at least, try to make himself available, try to get on the ball, and maybe do the simple passes, but it's still some midfield play. I think we were just, in general, we just did not have a presence in the midfield at all. It was all on the wings, on the outside. There was no, I think, internal penetration, and I think it made us easy to play against. Like Red Bulls, I think they're out now, but they lost their two other games, and they didn't score another goal. The only goal they scored was the sucker punch versus Atlanta, essentially, and then they more or less wrote out the result, and that's basically what the other teams did. And I think with this look, we're just not a threat, and I think that's where the issues really begin. Going back to the lack of goal scoring, I think one of the big issues that Atlanta United is suffering from now is that teams don't really fear their attack. and so they were just easy to play against.
Right. That possession play that we do have really leads to nothing because there is no purpose with it. And so, the ease in which they know exactly what we're doing, or they can just kind of, push us into the spaces that they want us to play in, really makes us just a lot less dangerous than, we have in previous years, obviously. And, whether that's not only the players, not only the front office, but also Frank de Boer and his coaches. I mean, there's a lot of blame to go around for a very, very poor showing, 0 goals in the tournament. And that's just, those are our 5 big things that happened that led us to going out of the MLS is Back tournament. Of course, there are more, but you let us know what your thoughts are on that in the comments below. But so let's get into the match review itself of the Columbus Crew match, and we'll kind of very quickly go through this because it's obviously it's almost punishment almost to relive it in a sense. But I mean, essentially, for Columbus Crew, they were controlling the match very, very early, and a 19 pass sequence allows them to slice us open to where, a deflected ball hits the back of our net, and they're up 1-0, and we pretty much essentially can't muster up very many chances in the first half at all. But in the second half, after you, make some changes at halftime, you see some more kind of energy, you see some more just throwing men forward, taking risks, and that's, I think, what made us at least look somewhat decent in the second half. John Gallagher played left center back and just brought a real fight that we hadn't seen in the tournament. And it's just something that from the Five Stripes, it's the Columbus Crew just kind of rolled us over, even though we kind of had some better statistics at the end of the day, but those statistics really mean nothing. In possession, if we have more, if we don't do anything with it, if we have more shots, if we don't really get shots inside the box in dangerous areas. So, I mean, in terms of largely on a whole, for you, the Columbus Crew match, you have like 1 or 2 quick thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there's improvement in the second half, but I think, okay, maybe the manager deserves some credit for that. But I think what we saw consistently is that we just started off on the wrong foot. Cincinnati didn't score in the first half, but of course we were down a man. It just felt like the manager kept, it just always felt like an experiment. And it always felt like the first half of these games was like, okay, that didn't work. Let's now make some changes. But then there wasn't really flexibility in terms of the actual starting lineup. So, I think Columbus deserves all 3 points. I don't remember too many other chances that they created, but at the same time, there really was no urgency for them to win. They would have gotten through with a draw, or won the group rather with a draw. So, but they're able to hold on. They get the job done, I think. And also, they didn't even start Zalarian, who's arguably been their best player in the tournament. So I thought, Columbus looked impressive, and we just, we didn't muster much.
Right. And it's even this, though, still, maybe a little unlucky in the sense that, their goalkeeper has 6 saves. I mean, though, none of the shots were really, I think, one would say, incredibly dangerous chances. But, and then, you have even more so, you have that kind of Wolverine X-Men type of looking at the photo of Jonathan Nagbe thing where you're missing Nagbe just incredibly so much because you see what he was able to do for them. I mean, he had, I believe, 100% pass completion, where he was just able to just play around us, and that's exactly what we're missing in our midfield. But
I think No, I think in the 3 matches, I saw a stat where he basically misplaced 3 or 4 passes for the whole group stage. It was like 98% completion. I mean, just ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and so also, I mean, looking at kind of the positional reports from who scored. I mean, basically, yeah, you see, Mo Adams kind of in the middle there, and also he's pretty much trying to man mark Jonathan Nagbe
Right.
to really no avail here, obviously. But, you also see on a 23 map here showing how the left center central midfielder and the right central midfielder are pretty much pulled apart completely, and there's just no one really taking the onus to really kind of dictate the play, collect the ball from the center backs, and really link the lines. And you just don't see it at all, and that's really that Nagbe sized hole that we have in our midfield. But again, if we can bring just another midfielder in, tuck in the wing mirrors, and push up maybe one of the fullbacks, it allows us to have that numerical advantage and have a little bit of dynamic in our attack that I think we sorely needed in this tournament. Just varying tactics would have been incredible, but that is part of kind of the bigger picture of last season. LGP and others in the locker room, you heard about the just them really taking over that mindset of, okay, we need change, we can't continue to play early on in the season like we were. We want to play in a more swashbuckling way, and you saw the kind of run of results in about that 6 week time. When we won the U.S. Open Cup and won the Campeones Cup, and you saw a lot of risk taking. You saw more dangerous play from us. But then early on this season, it kind of reverts back to that 3-4-3 that we saw early on last season. A little bit more methodical. A little bit more risk averse, and you have gripes from fans that are kind of mirroring parallel situations to last year, where they want Frank de Boer out. So for you, where do you stand so far in all of this kind of what's going on within the team? Do the Frank de Boer out people have validity? Do the Frank de Boer in crowd have validity? Like, where do you stand?
Yeah, sorry, I just got distracted. I'm not completely off the Frank de Boer train, but I'm looking for my exit, I think. It's just that he's been in the job for a year and a half now. And what I really compare him to, I think, for me, is like other coaches who've been in with their teams in a similar timeline and where they are. Like I look at Caleb Porter with Columbus, or I mentioned Stam, who's been in the job for a shorter time. And it just he's constantly changing, and he's constantly tinkering, but at the same time, like it seems like he can be a little stubborn in terms of the tactics. I mean, like, I just don't understand why we continued with some of the things that we did, like the 3-4-3, so I think De Boer has a lot to do, and I think that if he is in place at the beginning of 2021, his seat should at least be warm. If there is any season left and the team continues playing terribly, I do think he should be let go, because this team is too talented to look as poor as they do. Like, people talk about like Atlanta always struggles without Joseph, but that really wasn't the case in 2017, and even 2018, I remember Tata and Joseph's going after the goal record, and people, journalists tried to ask Tata if the team depends on Joseph or overly depends on Joseph, and his response was, well, it's still a team game, you know what I mean? Like, most players touch the ball, they move the ball around, and essentially it does become feeded to Joseph, but there were always opportunities for other players to score. I mean, we saw that in the 2018 playoffs, right? It wasn't just Joseph that scored. So, I need to see I think the manager's got to do better with the team that he has. I think some of the newer players, like I'm thinking like Josetu, I guess we'll see if how much John plays with Lopez coming in. But if De Boer is able to use Lopez, I mean, good for him. But then again, like this is another kind of a big transfer, right? And so if he flops or if he starts off not looking so great, then I think that puts even more pressure on the manager, because then it's like, I've said this before, like PD, Barco, inconsistent at best under De Boer, and other players really don't look as good as they have before. And then you have like a player like Rometty, who's just being kind of frozen out, even though he was an important player for us before. So it's just like, yes, individual players have to take responsibility, but I think a lot of these things point back to the manager.
Yeah. I mean, and, there is, arguments of like, okay, so, in our great spell last season, yes, we were essentially one match away from the MLS Cup final, so, with the 2 trophies, with almost getting to the MLS Cup final, there is that leeway that, he should be given, but I think for me, it's also, you look at it kind of not in a microcosm and not only in a, I guess, microscope, in a tunnel, whatever it is. Basically, you have to look at it on, the whole with all things considered. Yes, the front office has not, recruited maybe properly. Like for like talent has not been there in terms of the replacements.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of that play, it obviously, looked very, very, attacking and dangerous during that kind of 6-week period. But beyond that, it looked a little lackluster in a lot of degrees where, you wanted something else. You wanted them to try different things. And so, if Frank de Boer, for me, if he doesn't change things very quickly, his seat does get very, very hot very, very quickly. But it still is. We're in the middle of a pandemic. You have, it's only three matches in MLS's back tournament that, we didn't score, but it also is, you had a lot of crazy things happening in that tournament. It doesn't excuse our very poor performance, but it really does. I think needs to be looked at as everything. And so he's had a lot of hurdles to kind of go through. Joseph being down, lots of things in his way to be able to to get the team playing at their best. But I think what's telling is if we do have a regular season, that's really, I think, he's coaching for his job in the rest of, this season. So if
There's,
he can...
two things. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But there are 2 things, I think, specifically that's with the board that I do take issue with. One thing, he came in with the reputation of being a defensive-minded kind of coach. I wanted to see how he would improve the defense. In my opinion, he is not. Like, I think he's made us more vulnerable in the back, and I think it's a combination of the play being slow. I think at times our positioning might be aggressive, but then it ends up that these players are just out of position for the counterattack. And it's like what I said before. Just teams just know how to play us. And so, I think the defense has actually been quite disappointing under De Boer. I mean, we got hosed a couple times last year, the Chicago match, the NYCFC match, the LAFC match, you could say, even though we came back in that one. The other thing, too, and so I recorded with For the Culture last night, and Grego brought up a good point. LA United had a bit more training than other clubs because of the rules here. And so, I think it is really worrying if we had the advantage in terms of being able to spend more time on a training pitch and still looking completely out of sorts. And so I think I agree with you. If there's a regular season in 2020, And if this doesn't turn around, and I mean, like, keep in mind, we just lost 3 matches. It's been 400 consecutive minutes without scoring. Like, he's got to turn that around almost completely. And if not, yeah, I think Atlanta United should be considering making a change, because I'm going to say this again. I'm not convinced that Atlanta United got the manager that they really wanted. I think it was kind of a rushed process. I think they got a sort of big name, but there's a few things, I think, his tactics, his man management, perhaps, that just don't fit with the team.
Yeah, and that's also, what they said that he was kind of goes against what he is. They also said that, it's going to be evolution, not revolution. And,
Right.
I mean, so far it looks like he's trying to, implement his thing and not go with kind of what's been working for us in a very swashbuckling attack where, the risk-taking that we do have is just not there. We are very, very really averse to wanting to playing into dangerous areas, throwing men forward. It's just something that seems like that's Frank de Boer not wanting the team to do. And so yeah, I mean, it absolutely is a lot to consider, but obviously a lot of people have their opinions, so let us know in the comments below what you think. But let's get into the post-match quotes for the Columbus Crew match and wrap this baby up. But essentially, he talked about changing the tactics during the game and how to fix this going forward. He said it's difficult. Maybe when we have a guy like Jeff Larowitz on the pitch, he's a guy that can put guys in the right spot. Right now, we're not able to do that. I'm shouting from the side, but it's difficult. I think that's showing that lack of leadership that we're now missing because, Larry not on the pitch, that definitely doesn't help our already lack of leadership. Missing a Parkey, missing an LGP, very vocal guys that, putting guys in the right places, in positions, in the spaces that they should be in, and it's an important part of this game.
Speaking of shouting, I think we're definitely missing Joseph in that regard too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that passion, that will to win is definitely missing from the pitch as well without Joseph Martinez. He said on his response to the fans questioning his status as a manager, he says, well, everybody is disappointed. I'm the first one who is disappointed. I only can say that I will always give my best, and I'm going to continue that until the end. I know that I can change the situation we have right now into a winning situation. We showed that last season when we started quite rusty. I'm convinced that with the players we have, we can really change this. If you can see the second half, that's what I want to see, and we will continue in that. So, I mean, he hasn't given up, which I think is a good sign, but it is still, you have very, I think, harsh words here from Brad Guzan that are very real, I think, but also kind of mirror what an LGP said in yesteryear. He said, on what does the work consist of in the future? Brad Guzan said, you talk about identity in these 3 games and can even go back to the Club America game. That's not who we are as a club. That's not what we are about as a team. That's got to be changed. There's got to be some sort of change on the field. There's got to be communication, conversations, but there has to be a response to that. It can't just be talk, and then we get on the field and do the same thing we've been doing. This didn't just happen in 1 game. This has happened for 4 games. It's not good enough. Not good enough as individuals or as a group. There needs to be change. There needs to be conversations that take place. There has to be a different product shown on the field. So, I mean, I think it's very, I think, eerily reminiscent of, what LGP said, what Joseph Martinez said last year. And so hopefully this is the catalyst for us to, change it to a positive again and, get a good run of results when and if the regular season does happen. Lastly, Brooks Lennon, he also was asked about, that seat being hot for Frank de Boer. He said, I agree with Brad. What he said essentially is what he's saying here. We have to hold ourselves accountable. We can't blame other people. We have to hold ourselves accountable as players for what we put out on the pitch, and obviously in these 3 games it wasn't good enough. We have to go back to the drawing board, and these decisions are decisions for us players, so we just need to keep moving forward. I mean, yeah, I think everyone's culpable here. I mean, you know, a lot of performances were lacking. I think you can count on maybe one hand the players so far that have done well in the tournament / have improved under Frank de Boer. I mean, so like as you said, you know, it is a little bit difficult to see who has really largely improved under the coach, but you know, still he has that 4-year contract. He is 1.5 years in. Let's see what he can do. You know, that the rest of the season, he's got his work cut out for him. But so anyway, that does it for the match review, and it gets us to the news this week. And yeah, Frank de Boer was asked about what is in store for this team after this tournament. He said, well, first the guys will have a couple of days off. That's normal since we've been in the bubble for a long time. Then we will start ramping up again and to be ready with what's going to happen. We don't know the plan of MLS right now, but we can still practice a lot of what we want, playing different systems and what we expect from them. We have enough time. I think we need the time to really train what we want to see and get confidence for when it starts up again. So, I mean, that's exactly what, you know, they need to be doing. So, yeah, you saw that. Yeah, the players are already back as well. They've been sharing on their IG stories. So it's, you know, hopefully this is a reflection period and also a kind of a refresher as well for them. But
yeah, again, like if they're gonna have extended time on the training pitch, I expect to see an improvement.
Indeed. So moving on, this is the big news that dropped today. You know, full transparency, we're filming this on a Thursday, but per a club email, essentially, LA United will be initially allowing 10,000 to 20,000 limited seat capacity inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium when the 2020 and if the 2020 season resumes. The matchday experience will be impacted with the safety in mind. CDC social distancing guidelines upon entry and in the seating bowl, and I'm sure throughout as well, you know, social distancing for likely the march coming into the stadium and everything kind of regarding the whole match day experience. So yeah, I mean, it's obviously, you know, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. Yeah, Marc, will you be going?
No. So it's a little bit easier for me because I don't have season tickets. But I always, like last year in particular, I bought tickets on a week-to-week basis. No, I mean, like you know, obviously we have to see how they're going to enforce social distancing. That'll be curious. But it just doesn't seem all that responsible. I also question the wisdom of running the bends, you know, operating the bends and with like a fraction of the capacity that you normally would. Like, does that even make economic sense? You got the workers you got to think about, box office, janitorial, concessions, security, you know, all of that. And probably what they're going to have to end up doing is, you know, cutting that staff so that, you know, they're not spending that much on payroll. But then, you know, you got to wonder how much responsibility each of those individuals will now have. You know, will they still be able to collect unemployment? I mean, these are all the questions that I have. Now, I can't say that I'm surprised, just because weeks ago, you know, a report came out that there were going to be at least a few NFL teams that would try to have lesser capacity. And so I kind of figured that the Falcons would be one of them. And, you know, at the end of the day, the Falcons and LA United are owned by the same people. They play in the same stadium. So, yeah, I'm not surprised. But I really can't say that I'm a fan.
Yeah. And, I mean, obviously, I'm excited that there could be games, you know, in the regular season for MLS and for LA United. It really remains to be seen what kind of protocols they will be following and all of that. I am a season ticket holder, so it it does kind of tie me to making the decision hard and fast if I'm going or not. So far, I mean, yeah, my girlfriend is kind of immunocompromised, so it makes that a little bit difficult to be able to get out there. And so, right now I'm kind of mostly no, but it is one of those kind of, I'm not a too hard on a FOMO person, but it is, yeah, you kind of, if it's, kind of protocol wise being done well, then, and it's what we like to see, then I might be swayed a little bit more in the direction of maybe me myself being able to go. But it's just it's gonna be difficult, I think, to prognosticate what type of situation it's really going to be, because the pandemic is still happening. It hasn't really lessened by most reasonable metrics, and so it's one of those things where Georgia has some of the most cases. The United States has the most cases in the world. It's yeah, I mean, not anything to be taken lightly. So
right.
Yeah. So anyway, moving on from that, an update on Joseph Martinez. He's said in an IG story that he's almost there. Just a thigh shot and a little bit of his butt, where basically he's able to. Yeah, a lot of people were noting the butt part, but
right.
The legs being able to extend fully like that is something that I think you like to see there, and yeah, he's working towards the goal of getting back. But obviously, I've said on the show multiple times that yeah, I don't expect him in the 2020 season. If he does, it's gravy. But so. Quick little testing update for the tournament that we're no longer in. They've had, I think, 5 straight days of 0 positive tests for over 1,100 people being tested. So the bubble is working over there. So that's fantastic. Obviously, Atl Utd are not part of that anymore, and so aren't maybe counted in that. It'll probably be a little bit less. But, it's good to see for the MLS back tournament at the very least. And yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it earlier. FC Cincy, they beat New York Red Bulls 2-0, and yeah, they placed second in the group, and I mean, who would have thunk? But congratulations to Brandon Vasquez and Greg Garza, both of them, part of FC Cincy, and so at the very least, that's good for them, for former Five Stripes, and of course Donington Nagby with Columbus Crew, but I mean, he was directly involved in in putting us into our hole, so I'm maybe not going to congratulate him fully and too hard, but still much respect to Nagby, of course. But so let's move on to Atlanta United 2. They earned their first point in the USL Championship kind of season/playoff thing that they're doing. They had a 2-2 draw against Memphis 901. Coleman Gannon scored his first professional goal and had himself quite a hell of a game as well. As striker Jackson Conway scored his second goal in his second consecutive match. And so, yeah, the Twos are back in action on Friday. They're playing our old friend in Charleston Battery at their new temporary home in Patriots Point Soccer Complex in Charleston. So, yeah, good luck to them. And, yeah, I mean, lots of talent at Atl Utd 2. And, of course, with a new talent that just got transferred in on loan in Erik Lopez, who, yeah, in a surprise move, likely because of not only international slots, but maybe the U22 designated player rule coming into play next year, maybe not wanting to, place him in one of those roster structures already in MLS. This is the move to kind of hide him there and then get him into the first team in 2021. So, very interesting, obviously, the way they've done it. And Frank de Boer has also talked about wanting to play Lopez in the first team if there is some way that we can loan him from Atl Utd 2, from his loan from Olympia. It's, yeah, right. MLS rules and USL rules are very complicated, so it'll remain to be seen if that can happen.
I think it'll be interesting too, because Jackson Conway's been scoring, So do they both play? Will they compete for the job? So but it's good to see that happening at the twos as well. It kind of goes to show you that there is some talent on that team. I hope they're able to. I'm not sure what the format is. You said it's a tournament style.
Tournament style. Yeah, a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So hopefully they're able to advance and have a better season. But yeah, I mean, like I think the twos are always interesting, because like you said, there's the talent there. They're kind of the next ones.
For sure. And I think, because Erik Lopez can play as more of a second forward type of guy, second striker, and play across the forward line. He's someone that maybe can play with the Jackson Conway if Jackson Conway is the guy to start, or if the tactics kind of allow for maybe Conway not to start and Erik Lopez be that guy. Maybe as that kind of counterattack option or something, then maybe it's that. But let's very quickly though let's get on to our interview with Roberto Rojas, who speaks with us about Erik Lopez. So we're chatting with Roberto Rojas of beIN Sports, Social and Digital, and he's also a Paraguayan-American journalist who covered Erik Lopez's transfer to Atlanta United, as well as other notable ones regarding the Five Stripes, such as Miguel Almiron last year. Thank you for joining us, Roberto.
No, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. So it's really interesting how quickly the rumor came about for Erik Lopez and the purported signing that came about right after he was initially rumored. Did that surprise you how quickly that kind of came about?
Well, I think it's really interesting how in today's world, you always get to see all types of social media, even if it's from like Twitter, for example, the likes of Fabrizio Romano, who is kind of like the Waj of soccer transfers. And so when this occurred, you saw some steam picked up from like outlets in Paraguay, and you're thinking, okay, let's see how this comes about. But then when you get more of the big guys, your Bruno Ponce, the famous, obviously, Cardinal commentator, and then Arturo Rubin, who is considered one of the greatest, or maybe the most famous and reliable journalists in Paraguay, you're thinking, okay, there has to be something to it. So, yeah, it was kind of fast. I mean, I think in the end, we're thankful that it occurred. Many people are very happy that we are seeing someone like Erik Lopez head to the United States, and even for me as well, it was just a surprise how so quickly he had gone from just being a professional, like less than a year's time, just being on the first team, played like 15 games on the first team, scored like 4 goals, and then boom, he gets shipped off quickly. I think it was surprising for me because he never actually got to experience a full season, but at the same time, kind of is how the market of international soccer is working nowadays, where they're getting the youngest talents, and when it comes to teams and players from South America, I mean, they're picking them out quickly, like never before, and so it kind of doesn't surprise me in a way as well.
Yeah. Does that speak to the talent level of Erik Lopez, or also maybe how Olympia possibly needs the funds to be able to, kind of self-sustain? I mean, is it maybe a combination of both?
I think so. I think when you look at, okay, yes, you can really make an argument that Olympia are the most successful, not the argument, sorry, Olympia are the most successful team in Paraguay. I mean, they're the most richest, and obviously they have the funds necessary, even though there are some bits and pieces where it doesn't all function properly. But again, it's still a South American club. And like a majority of the South American clubs, with certain exceptions, they don't have the funds necessary to keep their star talents, or at least their brightest gems. I mean, when you compare it to a Brazil and Argentina, it was only bound to occur that a player like Erik Lopez would get sold off to a team with much more financial strength, in this case being Atlanta United. So I think it really is a demonstration. And of course, after what occurred with Emmanuel Adebayor when he came to the nation, and effectively was going to be someone that was going to help them win the Copa Libertadores, or at least compete for it, when that got broken off because of the whole COVID-19 pandemic. They had to find the fund somewhere, and I think getting a cool $3 million from Erik Lopez is big, and also Olympia have been known for selling a lot of their talents recently to much more bigger clubs. Another big example that I could add to was Richard Sanchez, a midfielder who had played a few years at Olympia, got his break on the national team playing in the Copa America. He scored against Argentina in a game, and from there on, after the tournament, he gets shipped off to America in Mexico. So yeah, it's just a case of another example of how these players who obviously have a lot of talent and can be sold for a decent amount of price is able to give the original club, in this case Olympia, the money necessary.
Right. And what's interesting, it's around, I think the purported transfer fee is around 3.7, went as high as maybe 5 million, right? And it's interesting that he goes to Atlanta United 2, but on loan first, and then he will join the first team in 2021. So Atlanta United had to get creative to bring him in. What are your thoughts on the move and how it affects Lopez's mindset, if at all?
Well, I think it's it really will help him get more exposed to what is American soccer. I mean, I think for anyone to make that jump, especially in Lopez's case, an 18-year-old kid who, like I said, didn't even have a full professional year of playing on the first team of Olympia, for him to just get onto the team straightforward in Atlanta United perhaps was a bit much. And obviously, this is obviously regarding roster issues and how to fix that. But at the same time, I think for him going to a team like Atlanta United 2 will help him be much more exposed and get him playing time. I think it was important for that to occur. I didn't expect it to happen, if I'm all being completely honest. I honestly expected him to be on the first team straightforwardly and go on from there. But I think in a way it kind of works because you have a player that is obviously going to get consistent playing time playing in USL. And I think given, and this is no disrespect to United 2 have to deal with, but I think for him, it could demonstrate a capability of him to shine and to really perform well. I think what we were able to see in Paraguay for those few months he did play, I think it could be demonstrated playing in USL. So I think it kind of makes sense. You play him in a few games, you see how he does there, and then by the time next year comes about, he will be much more experienced. And I think it also takes away a bit of the pressure of him as well. I think he'll fit fine in Atlanta. I think he is a player for the future. I think that's understandable because of his potential and obviously because of his age. So it makes sense. And spoken to him on my podcast, Lowland Futbol, the other day. He's very excited to go, and I think he's very expectant of what's going to happen, regardless if he plays on the second team or the first team. I think he wants to demonstrate his all, and I think having that kind of commitment and desire to perform on whichever team, be it the second team or the first team, that he will prove it and play to the standards that he can demonstrate.
Right, and that was an awesome episode of Low Limit Futbol, and speaking to Erik Lopez, what type of player and what type of person are Atlanta United getting after speaking to him, getting an impression of him, and obviously seeing him from afar?
Well, I'll start with what you're going to get on the pitch. I think you're going to get someone that obviously has a lot of potential. I think given how quickly he broke through into the first team Olympia, and going back into what he was able to do. He was in the academy when he was a teenager, a young kid, and he captained the team. He scored obviously a bunch of goals, and I think you're getting someone that is very, very fast. I think he has good strength and balance, and he's not the tallest guy either, so that's a big advantage for someone that is 5'8", 5'9" at 18 years old. But no, I think you're getting someone that is versatile on all fronts on the attack. Someone that can play as a winger, a second striker, or number 9 or even track back if needed to be. So yeah, I think you're really getting a player with a lot of good talents. Off the pitch, and obviously having spoken to him, I think you're really getting someone that is very disciplined, and not even speaking to him personally, but also speaking to those that are in his camp in his area. He's really someone that is very disciplined, humble, always wants to get better in every way. I think my impression of him that he's a player that can really go a long way, and I think he really wants to prove something. I think the influence that someone like Miguel Marón has had on him, to join Atlanta United, to go to MLS, I think is something that many young Paraguayans are looking at now. And this is not the case for just Paraguayans, but I think for young South Americans to go there and use that as a springboard to, give it a couple years, he's able to shine, follow the same path as Miguel did, and go to a European club, go to a top 5 league, and see what happens there. I think that's what Lopez wants, and I think that's his ambition. But yeah, as I've spoken to him, he's someone that obviously wants to get better. He said that the best is yet to come for him, and I think he has that ambition to obviously this is going way in front of perhaps expectation, but he wants to win. I think he proves that he's a winner, and he wants to be successful at Atlanta United. So on the pitch, you're getting someone that is talented on all fronts in the attack, be it with pace, technicality, finishing, scoring. And off the pitch, you're getting someone that is very disciplined, very mature for his age, and just has that drive of wanting to win. So when you have the mix of both, and of course as someone who is also trying to get exposed to the culture of what is Atlanta United and what the United States has to offer and all of MLS, and obviously to learn the language as well, you're getting someone that really wants to be there and is proving why he's an Atlanta United player.
Yeah, no, it sounds like we definitely are getting some type of player that we definitely need, definitely in this interim. But Frank de Boer wants to use him. The whole legalities of MLS structure and roster structure is something that will determine if he does or not. But yeah, anyway, let's get into what's going on into your world, Roberto. What do you have going on? Let us know where to find you, all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again. But yeah, you could follow me on Twitter at Roberto Rojas 97. I'm obviously, as I mentioned, the co-host of the Low in the Football podcast with Joe Ucella, where every week we talk about everything that's going on in the world of football, be it MLS, be it anything in Europe, South America, whatever it may be. Obviously, you could listen to the interview that we had with Erik Lopez, which I think was the first outlet, I think, in any country to have spoken to him ever since joining Atlanta United. So it's it's been going good so far. I mean, obviously I'm doing stuff at beIN Sports as well, so keep an eye on what I'm doing there. And yeah, just follow me there on Twitter. I'm obviously talking about not just soccer, but obviously with other sports as well coming back. I mean, we got MLB back, we got the NBA back, and yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell. So check me out there, and obviously check out the podcast whenever you have the chance as well.
Indeed, yes. Follow Roberto Rojas on Twitter. He is a definite must follow there. But Roberto, thank you so much for your time, and we'll chat with you later. Thank you so much to Roberto Rojas for his time, and lots of good insight on our new forward in Erik Lopez. So one last thing in the news is Jürgen Damm. He's been on his TikTok game again, and his centros or his crossing is the continuation of his story. He's come to Atlanta. Yes, he realizes the centros is missing, but his good friend finds it and ships it to him, hand delivers it to him, and it's an amazing finale in this little bit of a saga on his crossing. So lots of fun in Jürgen Damm coming in. Obviously, a little bit of light in all this darkness, but it also is, Jürgen Damm, he's on his TikTok game, but we will also be expecting, hopefully, that he is on his actual game as well when he comes into the team. And will be sometime in August. Apparently, that might happen. But that pretty much does it for the news. And onto a little bit of housekeeping. We have a Twitch channel, so come and hang out with us. We're playing FIFA 20, Atlanta United in FIFA career mode in the Premier League. And he's, Tanner is pretty much chopping and changing, bringing in some new guys, but keeping that Atlanta United core. Jose Martinez is part of that big core. So it's a lot of fun. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Join us at twitch.tv/Atl Utd FanTV. And so let's get on to the mailbag. And you guys send in these questions through IG Story. Please continue to do so, and we might answer your question in the future. First question comes from Homicide Poppy. He asks, are the struggles because of the system or because FDB doesn't have buy-in from players? What do you think?
Yeah, I know. I think that's an easy narrative for people to go into. Like, the players don't trust the coach. I think players do want to be coached. It's just they need to be convinced. You know what I mean? So, like, I think it starts with the system. But I think, if there are continuous mishaps and failures with the system, then he will start to lose the players if he hasn't already.
Right. I mean, essentially, you want to see the results in a better performance after being, coached into playing a certain way. And so if you're not seeing that on the pitch, then you maybe start to lose a little bit of trust. Your heads start to drop. I think you saw that a little bit through the tournament in that some of the players, maybe didn't track back or maybe didn't, follow a player after losing the ball or losing their man, and just kind of content in allowing things to kind of transpire. And that's, you guys, you kind of want guys to be accountable on the pitch for every single action. So next question comes from JohnLon07. When will Atlanta United leave the bubble? So, they've already left the bubble pretty much immediately after the tournament was over for them. And, you can even see from, the IG stories of Anton Walks. They're already back in town. They're taking runs. They're back to kind of, the Atlanta life. And, it's obviously still very quarantined and, difficult. Next question comes from Stinky Tofu 90. Stinky Tofu 90 asks, here we go, hold on. Probability of Villasanti Arzamendia rumors resurfacing anytime soon.
Probability? So I don't know about, maybe like 25-30%. I will say, like, it does seem like we have a need for another midfielder, especially if the board's not going to trust Remedi. So Villasanti, I think, makes sense in that regard. Arzamendia is probably a little too expensive. I think also, they seem like they have depth, in terms of the quality at left back. Maybe that's another conversation. But I do think it's also time that we start trusting Bello a little bit more, and at the very least see what he has. So maybe not Arzamendia right away, but I think we could use another central midfielder.
Right. Yeah, Villasanti might not be that profile of the guy that we're looking for. We're looking for, someone that can control possession a little bit more, and so Villasanti strikes to me a little bit more of kind of a defensive midfielder that can be a little more combative and bring that energy.
I think we could. I think you could argue that we have a need for that as well. Because when you think of like pure defensive midfielders on the roster, I think of maybe Jefferson Renowitz and Mo Adams. So,
sure, yeah. Erik Remedi plays that slightly in a role, but it's definitely he's wanting to get on the ball a little bit more and. Maybe isn't as positionally disciplined all the time as we maybe want him to be. Arzamendia, I think for me, echoing your points there, but also, he's been linked with the likes of, teams in Europe. So it may be one of those things where, does he want to come here if he's being linked to teams in Europe? Who knows? Last question comes from Sahil Patel 217. Sahil asks, how hot is De Boer's seat? I think we talked about it a little earlier, but to reiterate, I think for me, it's hot. I think essentially he's coaching for his future in 2021 in the rest of the 2020 season. So if we don't have a season, then obviously that becomes a lot more difficult to really say. But I mean, he pretty much has to turn this around pretty quickly because there are not it's a lot different from I think last year in which it was very early on that there was struggle, and then you had the better spell, and then all the way up until the end it was still very decent. But I think now it's you see kind of patterns, and it's one of those things where maybe Frank de Boer is partially to blame, but you also have to look at the front office and what they're doing. You also have to ask more of the players. I mean, they're definitely, I think, culpable as well in their effort. But Marc.
I mean, I think it's warm. Maybe like a Georgia spring day, but I think it's the pressure's starting to come on for the reasons you said. I think the only reason it's not warmer is because of the mitigating factors of everything that's happened this year. And so, like, especially to make a move right now would be drastic. I think I wouldn't support that. But we'll just have to see where we are in December. It's really all I can say for de Boer's job status.
Right, and that's what I mean is it's hot this season, but a decision will not be made, I believe, until the end of the season.
Yeah.
Barring a a pretty much winless regular season, I think.
You mean like
I don't think
Crystal
that will
Palace type of form?
if it was something like that, then there might be starting really heavy whispers / shouting probably. But anyway, so that does it for the mailbag and pretty much the entire show except for the question of the day. And the question of the day is, well, the news of the 10,000 to 20,000 capacity has come out. Will you be going to the games at the beINs? Let us know in the comments below. So that's the show, guys. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe. And for Marc, I'm AJ. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.